As for some longer term positive news about Bitcoin or positive developments, I mean, these are things, part of the growing fundamentals, part of the macro stuff I've been talking about for a long time. Balance line exchanges declined by over 1 million since 2020, and it continues to go down. This is part of the supply shock I was just talking about with the ETFs. If you have a lot of net inflows and you have a lot of circulating Bitcoins going into them, it's just removing from the overall supply, from the circulating supply, right? And ultimately, that's all we care about, supply and demand. When there's more demand than supply, guess what happens? Bitcoin's price goes up. It's that easy. It's that easy, right? And more is being taken off the exchanges. And more is taken off in the OTC market too. So all these big purchases that you see, you can measure it. You could see Coinbase having like $1 billion moved off the exchange. Why is that? OTC market, these big boys need to replenish. Even the OTC market is declining and will eventually go to zero, where, I mean, one day, BlackRock is going to go to Coinbase and say, hey, we need 1 million Bitcoin. And they're going to say, sorry, we don't have 1 million to sell you. That's what's going to end up happening. And look at this, the Bitcoin whales, okay, maybe not the institutions, but the whales, or maybe they are. I don't know. You can include them in there. But since the start of this year, so it's only been 29 days, you could say 28 days, not counting today, they've added 76,000 Bitcoins to their bags, $3 billion worth. Okay, that's what the whales do. That's what the big boys do. They don't panic over any little drop. In fact, they love to see it. They love to see Bitcoin stay at where we are now, 42,000, for the rest of this year. You know why? Because it allows them to buy so much more versus seeing Bitcoin end up at 100,000 this year. They'd rather see us stay where it is for an entire year. For us retail investors, we would hate to see that. That would be very, very boring market. But for these big whales and institutions, they would like to see nothing more than a stable Bitcoin or even a declining Bitcoin so they can keep on loading up, right? So that's why they have been. January has been a down month for Bitcoin. And guess what? Their buying is increasing. It didn't go flat. It didn't go down. In fact, it started increasing. Why do you think? Because they're loading up while Bitcoin is down. That's how you do it. That's why I keep saying, focus on the future and continue to DCA. And that's exactly what the big boys are doing. Other things from a TA perspective, MACD is flipping into the positive territory. That's always good. That probably signals that, yeah, our 38,000 drop, 38.3 was bottom. So that's awesome. But long term, okay, this is what we're looking for. A launch, I guess. Bitcoin launch pad. So basically, every single cycle, you go through this kind of like ascending wedge pattern after coming down from peak, and then you blast off, right? Launch pad. And we're like right there. So what the exact date, I would say like, either at halving or a little bit past halving, that's when we get to that point, and that's when the launch is ready to begin, right? So this is why we continue to hodl, why we continue to accumulate, why we focus on the future, because the parabolic rise is coming. It's right around the corner. This is absolutely the worst time to be feared out of the market. Seriously, this would be the absolute worst time, right before a halving event, to be getting out of the market. If you ignored, out of the 4-year cycle, again, if you had to pinpoint when you want to get in, it's like right now. Like if you're looking at this, it's like right now, right under the fire. That's when you want to get in. There's no better way to explain that. Now we got an update from last Friday. So obviously after market close, we didn't get the updated assets from the fund managers. But now it looks like, they are still loading up. And Friday, in fact, we had net positive rather than net negative because grayscale dumping basically softened a lot. But what we do know is this: BlackRock now holds $2.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Fidelity's at 1.9, not too far off. They both added a ton, okay, on Friday. I mean, a ton on Friday. They increased their buying. ARK and Bitwise both above 500 million, huge numbers. And Invesco at about 300 million, and then you have Van Eyck and Valkyrie both above 100 million. They are all fantastic. Now, Grayscale did dump some more, okay, but overall net positive. You look at the very bottom, daily change 309, net positive 309. Bitcoin's going into the funds rather than being sold, and that's very different versus the last 4 days. So Monday through Thursday, it was nothing but net negative because of Grayscale, right? So this is another big thing for this week. Grayscale will probably continue to dump, but I think it's going to soften more and more every day until it gets to basically zero. On Friday, it was like 200 something million, mid 200 something million. Today, let's see what happens. If it ends up being low 200s or even 100 millions, then yeah, I would say we have confirmation for sure that Grayscale dumping is about to end, and with the other fund managers loading up, that's going to contribute to the supply shock. Let's just put it that way, right? So we'll see. But I think that is a big thing if Grayscale finally stops dumping hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every day, basically since the ETFs, since they debuted. I think that's very, very big. Alleviates most of the selling pressure. Okay, so that's also coming up this week. That's pretty big. That's really, really big if you think about it. As for ETFs, Hong Kong is about to get theirs. So you have funds that are applying for spot ETFs in Hong Kong and in other parts of the world. But not only that, Charles Schwab, many people are thinking that they will be jumping in this space too, right? They're a pure basically brokerage company, but they offer a lot of ETFs of themselves, and many analysts think that they will try to shake up the ETF market with a late entry. So they may be coming in the near future as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And lastly, about ETFs, Google may be reversing their policy on crypto ads, and there's rumors that starting today, Google will allow Bitcoin ETF ads to appear. I don't know what kind of volume this is going to bring in, but I'm sure BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other guys, they would love to start advertising their ETFs on Google, right? So that may start. And I don't see why Google would not allow this. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin spot ETFs are a legit thing regulated by the SEC. So there's really no reason why they would not allow this and make more money by doing so. So this could also be a big catalyst starting this week. That's why you see there's a lot of things going on for this week. We just started, but man, there's a lot of things gearing up